Hello, 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 hello. How fabulous you look, Juditha.
Thank you so much, Sid.
Those are some lovely feathers.
It's Pride Month and I can do Pride, so I thought, let's do it.
Making us all feel like inferior gays here.
Looks lovely, Juditha.
They're going to revoke my card now.
So fluffy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome. And anybody here who's new, well, we're all pretty weird, but you'll settle down and enjoy it, I hope. We were talking on Tuesday, because I do this Tuesday and Friday, about Gay Pride Month, because it is. And it's getting closer and closer to, I think it's June the 26th, which is the day that is the commemorative day. Is that right, Mel? Am I right about that?
I think it might be the 29th.
The actual day that the police arrived and everybody rebelled in that Greenwich Village bar. Anyway, I'm not sure, but someone will no doubt enlighten us. I'm not sure about a lot of things. So let's wheel in the first person. We'll start talking to each other, and you'll approve. I'm not sure.
We're going to go over to Marlo and Mimi in Germany, I believe is where you guys are. I know it's late.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back. It's so nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. And to see
I remember your fantastic duet when we first started. It's still one of the great moments of this whole social club for me. You guys were amazing. An impromptu duet with the guitar at 4 o'clock in the morning, or whatever time it was.
It was
fantastic. Now, I understand that you're going to help me learn a bit, and everybody, a little bit about gay pride and the history and what the terminology and what's going on and how to navigate the complex arena of
yeah, we'll sum this up for you in about 5 minutes. That's not possible, but we'll do our very
well,
best.
you've got as long as you need, frankly. And to be honest, I think that if anybody that is like me listening to you has a burning question that might help clarify something for all of us, they should feel free to get in touch with Mel and just ask. So Mel, would you do that? Yeah. Would you just unmute someone who needs to ask a question? Because I can't monopolize these guys and I'm not smart enough to come up with the right question.
But I think you got the gist pretty well in terms of at least, yeah, go for it. At least in terms of, Stonewall and the like. But obviously there were a lot of other movements happening all over the world throughout the 20th century.
Yeah.
So Pride is obviously sort of based in America, but in Germany you've got Christopher Street Day, which is the equivalent of Pride, and you get that in Berlin. I was at my first London Trans Pride last year,
right.
Which is nutty that took until 2019. Sorry, I always think about that. 2019 we had our first London Trans Pride, and
yeah,
unfortunately we're not having one this year, which is why we're a little bit decked out today, because this is our Pride Day. Yeah, that's why everyone dressed up. Why everyone dressed up today.
Wow, fantastic! Well, happy Pride Day.
Thank you, and thank you, Mel.
I would like to ask you some questions, if I may. That I think that people like me and people not like me ask, because we're not really part of the scene, and we're not really we're just not really sure. And it tends to be a lot of older people. And I don't know. I mean, I know that there's this ever-expanding acronym,
LGBTQIAAP, plus, and also TS if you include Two-Spirit. It's a bit. I can totally explain this to you.
Thank you.
Again, I think everything to do with gay, queer, LGBT plus is a confusion for many, including the people in the community. I, for example, don't use LGBT plus. I use queer because I personally feel that that's more inclusive.
And queer covers everything.
Queer, oh gosh, there's another thing about that. Queer technically covers everything, but it's a Western invention. So there are some people for various reasons that don't use queer, either because they have an uncomfortable personal history with it, or because they think that it's something that's sort of indicative of Western gender and sexuality roles, etc., etc. I personally love queer because it also doesn't have a hierarchy. LGBTQIA inevitably has a hierarchy because you're going to have a letter first, and you're going to have some letters that are just like plus. Like
now what's the plus for?
Yeah, with pluses. The plus is if you don't have the space or the time to write out the whole acronym, and also because people are constantly but people are constantly reevaluating what these identities are. So essentially to go back to queer, what I love about it is that we're moving into a place now in which more and more people are going, actually, this is really, really hard to sum up with one word. So why don't we just have like a sort of word that kind of is like, I'm not queer, like I'm not straight or cis, or I'm one of these things I am not. And as for what I am, if you want to know more, you can ask me directly.
Yes, technically, I suppose the LGBTQI plus is really everyone in the world, because the plus is the most inclusive part of it. So there really is nobody left out.
Well, I mean, the thing is, so I use the term non-binary to describe myself, and that's not in the acronym. It's intended to be beneath the T for trans, but not everybody who identifies as non-binary also identifies as trans. And then I also use the term, I'm just going to get really confusing here, I also sometimes use the term agender, because agender is a little bit more specific, basically going, yeah, none of that, please.
Okay,
like,
I like that. That works.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense. And within the community, obviously, you're not going to go through that whole complicated acronym every time you mention something.
No.
Exactly. That's just for us folk. The people.
Yeah, a little bit, and it's good for, you know, articles and like official things and the like. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that, like, for me personally, I feel like, and actually a lot of my friends feel like it's too complicated to be like, oh, I'm a letter in an acronym. I'm like, if I were to be like very, very hyper specific, I would be, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd be like 6 letters, and some of them are not in the acronym. So it's like, and I can walk you through those letters as well if you want. Like,
I don't think I've got room in my brain. But what I'll start progressively more difficult the questions now, because these are concerns, not concerns that like I'm not reflecting a moral panic here. This is just stuff I've heard talked about. That's when we were all young. When I was younger, sure, there were a lot of kids who were gay, and there were lots of kids who were bi, and there were lots of the basic LGB, whatever, the LGB. And that there were very few people who were trans, and there were very few people who had any kind of gender change surgery. Now but that seems to have increased at a great pace in the last 20, 30 years. Is that because of the technology?
It's because, well, I mean, the first, it's a bit unclear when the first gender reassignment surgery was. There's obviously Christian Jorgensen, which is the 50s, but then there's Lily Elba, which I believe was earlier than that, the 30s. And they were big names. There's also Michael Dillon on the sort of more trans guy side. And that's also the early 20th century, but these are just people that we know of. And it's also, so it's partly the fact that it's less risky nowadays. And it's also partly because of the accessibility, which frankly is not great, but it is better. So there's a sense of like, oh, I can go out and do this. Like for me, I'm going to be getting some surgery. The waiting time to get on the list is 2 years.
Right.
And that's in London. Like that is in London.
Right.
So that is 2 years for me. And then after that, I also have to wait for the surgeon to become available and like a bunch of other things. So like, it's still not amazing, but it is better, and it's easier to find a community of like-minded people. And also naturally, in the olden days, gosh, that's the thing. Like before you were born, olden days, that was not how I wanted it to come out. Sorry about that.
You can actually just say, you know, back when you were a kids.
No. I'm
long
talking
ago.
early 20th century. I'm talking like pre-war. People
Right.
were basically interchanging gender and sexuality. So it was a bit unclear, like, is this person what we might call trans today or non-binary today? Or is this person a lesbian or gay? It's a bit like,
Yeah.
and that's way up into the 80s. Like one of the most famous, in terms of people that you should know, since we're talking Stonewall, Marsha P. Johnson identified as a drag queen, as a woman, as a gay man. Like at the time, the terminology wasn't quite there, but she used the terminology that she had to sort of in various ways describe herself. She's
Right.
one of them, like, I think in terms of like her, Sylvia Rivera, and Miss Major, who is still alive today, are three of the most important names that I would say you should know about.
Is there a discussion in your community, in your wider community, about tolerance, about where you draw the line in terms of what point do you decide to get upset about a perceived slight or a perceived discrimination? It's a very complicated question because, I mean, for example, I was listening to Stephen Fry the other day, who I really love as an erudite man who seems to know about everything in the world. And he was talking about the illiberal left, the illiberal liberals, because it seems that if it gets to a point where someone so much as gets close to stepping on your toe without actually stepping on it, they're beaten down and told and disgraced and told that they're not welcome and that they're discriminatory and that they shouldn't be, you know. And it just seems to be not very moderate. Is that, do you agree with that statement, or do you think it's actually, I'm wrong?
I think I can see where you're coming from. I think that the UK, I'm talking very UK specific.
I'm playing with fire. Yeah.
I think that the UK is a very, in terms of gender, a very intolerant place.
Yeah.
It's a place in which, between 2018 and 2019, there were 6,000 articles published in the UK press about transgender identities. Yeah. And those were mostly debates about whether we exist. And I was like, but I exist right here, surely you can see. Of course. And so a lot of what gets people sort of riled up, I think, or for me personally, is that there are a lot of important things to talk about. Yeah. You know, there's what I just mentioned, which is that I have a 2-year waiting list to get done what I need to have done. That's something I'd love to talk about. There's sort of like just sort of basic respect for like accepting that when I come into a space and I say, oh, I'm this, then people go, cool, that's fine. There's stuff like hate crimes, which is sort of on the rise. And then instead, we have to spend all of our time listening to J.K. Rowling being like, oh, but I don't believe in this. And I'm like, oh, just move on. Yeah. It's not that I'm offended. I mean, I am offended, but I'm more just like, oh, you're so stupid. Like, I'm more just like, oh, I thought we moved past this. And a lot of like gay and bi people and other people like from different parts of the acronym have also been like, this is just the exact same thing that people were saying during Section 28. This is just the same thing that's been repackaged. Yeah, and surely we should be smarter than this, but we're not.
I hope you get enough love. I mean, not personally, but I hope you get that as from an identity point of view, you feel loved enough to be able to battle these skirmishes.
I mean, I have a lovely community of people. I'm sort of vaguely out to my mom. Oh, that's another part of the queer experience that I think a lot of people can relate to. I'm sort of vaguely out to my mom. In the sense that I sort of came out to her, but I'm definitely going to have to come out to her again. When I like ask her to like, I'm going to be like, Mom, I know I told you this, but also I'm getting surgery now. And then at some point it's going to be like, Mom, I know I told you this, but also I'd love it if you use these pronouns. Just sort of thing.
I think she'll be, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing she'll be pretty terrified.
She'll be a little bit terrified. She's a doctor though. So she's a doctor in a good sense. Sorry, I know that not everybody is like super a fan of doctors. Yeah. She's a good doctor. But I'm not going to be coming out to my dad because he's.
Because I know that Nana and Nana visitor, who is my son's mum, had that conversation, as young parents, parents do with young children, very young children. And so obviously we had the conversation about what sort of, how prepared were we if our child is born with a degenerative disease, and or X something. We go through all these hypotheses as what will be parents and parents of youngsters. And of course we discussed whether or not, how we would feel if our son decided he was gay or different in some way. And we were both very relaxed about it, but it took a bit of a, it took a little bit of a shove, like my first time jumping off a diving board. I had to push myself in the back, because my ancestry and all of that stuff was screaming, no! Because everybody just, incredibly resistant to change. And we have, I've heard discussions about this community. Sorry to objectify you, but in terms of, African Americans have been fighting for emancipation for 250 years in America. Women have been fighting for emancipation for 2,000 years in the world. Gay people have been fighting for emancipation since the early 1900s, and finally achieved it in the late 60s, at least in England. And I suppose achieved it is really, it's an overstatement. They didn't achieve anything. I mean, they're still, beaten up outside pubs at night in the country. But everything takes such a long time. It takes such a long time to change people's minds on any big level. And is there an awareness of that? Or is there an impatience, do you think?
So I think that there is a thread.
Harder and harder.
Yeah, we went from like first grade to like
now we're at postgrad.
like
Exactly.
like late. I'd say like late high school maybe. I'm not sure. I'm making this up as I go along.
What I'm trying to do is give you a sense of what the sympathetic world are still questioning. There are people who will never be sympathetic, so you're not going to get through to them, and ever. It's just not going to happen.
Basically, what I think is that all of these things, like Black Lives Matters, trans rights, queer rights in general, women's rights, disabled rights, conversations about colonialism and capitalism, I think that they're all threads that connect to the same issues.
I agree.
So, God, it's such a weirdly utopian concept, but I don't feel like we can sort of solve one issue until we solve all of these issues.
I agree totally. I agree totally, and I think everybody should be piggybacking this movement, this latest movement, because I think Mel taught me a word the other day, which was intersectivity or intersectionism. But more than that, it's more than that. It's you're actually fighting for the same thing. It's just a slightly different same thing. Nobody can tell that.
Battlefield. It's and then what I, for example, need to have an awareness of is that yes, I'm fighting for. I mean, I haven't even gotten into we haven't even talked about asexuality yet. That's a whole different thing. But we're fighting for a very specific thing that impacts us directly. But we have to have an awareness of the fact that the queer community is not perfect. It's also racist. It also suffers from the same problems that any other piece of white society would do. So for me, it's I need to obviously be at the front lines for what I need to talk about, which is this. But I also need to make the space for other people to be able to talk about their battlefields and support them in that.
What's your realistic short-term ambition in terms of, because obviously people of color and women, if you want to take a much bigger umbrella, are recognizable at 100 paces. That person, I'm already afraid that person's walked into the room. I'm already going to pay that person less than me, whatever the arguments are de jour. But what would be your short-term ambition? What would be your short-term it's a small step, it's a baby step, but I'm really happy that we've got to. What's the baby step that you would like, that you would love to see in the next before you're 30, before you're 35?
Me personally, or the whole community?
Either of you. I mean, it's a question to both of you. I don't know if they are the same short-term ambitions, so you're both welcome to answer.
While you're thinking, for me personally, actually through Star Trek, funnily enough, I have found a whole new niche of queer people now. And I've noticed, because I'm on the countryside, obviously, which is also a whole different thing, because for years and years and years, it was only me and my best friend being queer here. So, and openly queer at that. And there is this whole thing where within the community itself, people do not feel queer enough. And that's really horrible and sad, because I never had that feeling while I was here, because I knew, well, this is the countryside. Then I moved to London and I was working for a queer charity, which I also walked in Pride with. And within that, there were mostly gay white men. And then there were like a few, like 4 of us who were other, which obviously no one's fault. It's just sort of what Pride looks like as a parade.
Yeah.
Often. But yeah, very often you get this feeling, for example, I have a boyfriend. Like I have my Marlo, and I also have a boyfriend who's sitting over there gaming at the moment. And since I've had this boyfriend, I feel I'm passing now. When I'm walking down the street with that boyfriend, I'm not queer enough. And that's a horrible feeling, because we together went through some stuff. And I went through stuff to get myself recognized in my village, and again at university, and again in my parents and whatever. And I got disinherited by my Bavarian uncle that one time, which was also an experience. But now you don't feel queer enough, because you constantly, the same goes for mental illness, the same goes for a lot of people that I've met who are mixed race, because you're passing enough. You're not.
Yeah.
When Marlo and I walk down the street, the chances are that Marlo gets harassed more.
Yeah.
When you look. Or when I go into the store with a girlfriend, chances are nothing happens, but Marlo and I have been harassed in public in stores, in bloody Camden Market in London.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a thing, because in Camden you don't expect.
It's pretty stressful when it happens. Yeah.
It's stressful. Yeah. No. I can do without that. So you do go through all this, but you do question yourself a lot. That's not very eloquently put, but I question myself: am I autistic enough to say that? Am I queer enough to say that? Am I asexual enough, despite the fact that I have sexual relations and had them in the past? It's all that.
I'm going to interrupt, but I have to tell you that you are absolutely normal in that regard. There is nothing remotely unusual about being like that.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. Within the queer community, that shouldn't be, because there are people who actually do gatekeep. Like, I have my au pair mother, who was married to a man for 25 years and then left him and got together with a woman. She had real trouble finding other queer people who accepted her. That's also a real thing. It happened to me as well, because you have a boyfriend now, you can go, like, you're not queer anymore. So that happens within the community. And for me, that would be a goal, that the community in and of itself accepts these problems and is more open to take in all the asexual people, because it is a large minority where, bloody hell, a lot of people, I've had so many people say like, oh, is there trauma in the past? Or is there this? Or this is not biologically normal, which I'm sure for trans people also happens a lot. Like, we get it enough from the outside. Maybe in the community itself, we can all stick together and be nice to each other and just say, yes, it exists, and we accept that. Yeah. Like, that's an utopian goal, but that would be a nice thing.
That's before we're 35.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's great. That's a great baby step. I think that's to fix from the inside out is a really good baby step. I think it's a really big ambition.
I found one while you were talking. Yeah, I was listening, but I was also thinking.
Go ahead, Marla.
2 things. One, I would love it if we normalized asking people for their pronouns in the beginning of conversations. So in the same way that we're like, oh, what's your name? What are your pronouns? That would be neat.
I think that's a realistic ambition.
That's like a little baby one. It's just, I think it's just a little piece of respect that goes quite a long way, and also it would change people in terms of what they think of as pronouns, because there's been a lot of pushback because they're like, oh, this isn't real language, and I'm like, all language is made up. Come on. Yeah. There were a bunch of Anglo-Saxons who were very, very angry when people started putting French into the English language. Like, I have receipts on that. It's great. The other thing is, I'm a filmmaker, and I basically want to make films about I mean, not even necessarily about queer people, but essentially I'm queer, so it's all going to be queer anyway.
Yeah.
But basically, somebody just wrote Chaucer used the singular they, which is also true. So did Shakespeare and Jane Austen. But basically, I would love it if queerness wasn't seen as an extra, if it were just a consideration of, oh, this is a way that people live. And so it wasn't, if I were pitching something, if I were making something, if anybody were making something, one doesn't have to go to a bunch of hoops to be like, oh, we had this one queer movie in 2017. We can't possibly do a new one right now. So yeah, that would be a nice one just within my sort of even smaller film community.
That's really terrific. Like that. I think that's also a very achievable ambition. It's ironic because really these are personal issues. These are personal questions. You know, it's not. We shouldn't necessarily want to know or be curious about what your orientations are of any one kind, and yet for reasons of rebellion, you've been forced to make them the outside. You advertise them to the world just for the reasons of inclusivity. But I think that, and I hope my baby ambition is that enough of us by the time I'm 65, this is the next 10 years, that enough of us love different people for their differences, because we learn that what we can take from them is as valuable as anything that we could possibly get from anywhere else. And if we love them or tolerate them, it's just fine. They'll give it to us for free. So you will teach me stuff for free if I accept you, just by being in my circle. And that same goes for people of color and whatever the situation. We're all capable of giving each other. I mean, we've heard all these conversations. I've learned over this City Social Club span of it, that every single person has been fantastic, fascinating. And they've all left a mark on me. And I'm sure they've left a mark on everybody. I haven't asked their sexual orientation. I haven't worried about the color of their skin. And in fact, they are entirely different to me in so many ways. But I love the difference, and it's been really great. I know that seems a bit 101, you know, sexual orientation class 101, but it's actually very true. So we can, I think, get to a point. I mean, I've been really lucky to be doing television where an Arab man or an African man, depending on how people want to identify me, they often say I'm Indian or Pakistani. I have no control over that. So whatever the hell they think I am, I'm in their living room watching them eat dinner. And it's my job, but by the end of that experience of watching them eat dinner, they go, oh, I know an Arab guy. I actually quite like Arabs. Or I like that Arab guy. And that's a beginning, you know. That's a beginning that's a crack through which we could start forcing a relationship. that they at least know one.
I was just saying, it's what I love about stories. It's why I want to make stories. Because I think conformity is very boring. And I think there's an endless amount of sort of compassion and empathy that comes through like consuming stories of other people. Which is why these are so great as well, because I feel like I'm watching a bunch of short films whenever I'm on these. Like I'm just like, oh wow, your life is that, your life is that. That's nothing.
And now a whole bunch of people know you better. Okay, 98 of us, but that's pretty great. So that's the beginning of another relationship. And obviously this is a really cozy room. You know, you're not going to find any angry people here. But, or you might, maybe someone is angry. They're going to come forward and tell us.
I'm sure they've got good reasons.
I'd like to thank you for your generosity in telling us this story and these things, and telling us what your baby ambitions are, and being so honest and positive about who you are and what you think you're going to be. And I wish you luck telling your mum. That's going to be pretty tough. And be prepared for that conversation. Why don't you wait 5 years? See if you change your mind. And
I've had that. I've had that already. I had that when I said that I wasn't gonna have a boyfriend, and I had people go, "Oh, you know what? Come back to me when you're 30." And I was like, Anyway,
I
thank
wish
you
you
very
both
much.
luck. And one of these days, will you sum up the actual courage to sing us another song? Will you come back one Friday or Tuesday and sing us? Tuesday's a better day. Oh no, Friday's a better day.
Theoretically, Friday's a better day because Tuesdays are at 3 in the morning,
Yeah.
and I do usually have school.
So what we'll do is we'll ask you to introduce the social club by coming and singing a song. And when you feel ready to do it, just will you tell Mal and just come and sing us something, because you rock.
Thank you so much.
You're
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for setting this up, by the way. I think a lot of us were feeling, sorry, just very quickly, I know that we should move on, but a lot of us were feeling quite isolated during this Pride season, because this is usually the time of year where a lot of us get seen in a way that we haven't been throughout most of the year. And obviously this year that's not happening, and obviously I'm not going to speak for any people of color right now, but I'm imagining that's a very, very scary time for a lot of people, because it's riots and protests now, and so I wanted to sort of wish everybody who's doing those protests luck, and I hope that they stay safe. Yes,
Thank you. Great. Message received, loud and clear. Good luck, guys, and thank you very much for this lesson. We needed it. I needed it.
Alrighty, we're going to hear from Jason next.
Hey, Sid and Mel.
Hello. How you doing, Jason?
Good to meet you both. It's funny, after, what was it, Tuesday was the Portland day, you've got the Toronto day today.
Yes, indeed. Are you in Toronto?
Yeah, no, Toronto born, but raised just about everywhere else before moving back here.
I was just telling, I just love that place. It's such a relaxing place. I mean, I know they've got problems, but every city has problems, but it's a nice vibe, you know, and lots of different people from all over the world clash. All
good food everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, the food is fantastic as well. They have I know it's pronounced some other way, but poutine is how I'm pronouncing it. That's pretty awesome. And because my wife knows all the places that she used to go to when she was in college. So she dragged me to all these wing huts and places, any cheap food, basically. You know? So didn't have any idea about what the good restaurants or the expensive restaurants were doing. But it was pretty fantastic. And I must have spent 6 months there overall. I loved it.
I almost worked on that mini-series with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Jackie
after Camelot it was, yeah.
After Camelot, that's right. Oh my goodness, we could have met already. So so you were a first AD?
Well, was a second AD back then, but now first ADing.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you prepping something?
No. We're again, you know, like you and like Geodata and like everyone else, everything got fully shut down. Geodata just gave me a thumbs up because we've been chatting about some film stuff in between. But some of the countries started to reopen for filming. Like I know there's one project in Quebec, British Columbia is starting to get close. But there are a lot of shows that had either stopped and went on hiatus, or were getting ready to go back. So like I know both new Star Trek shows will go back pretty soon.
Yeah. But how are they gonna do that? I mean, you've got at least 400 people working for each show, and well, everybody included editorially. And you've got to have them all on set, but then you've got to quarantine them all. I mean, you won't get insurance for.
It's all still being worked out, you know, and all of these safety guidelines are starting to come out, and our Ontario guidelines have gone in for government approval. So we're waiting to hear exactly what those will be, and then the unions will take us through, and then there'll be negotiations on a show-by-show basis. But it's going to change how things operate. You know, people have to be a lot.
I mean, it's going to be great in one sense only, and that is that a lot of Canadians are going to get working, because it's not going to be people from Britain. It's not going to be people who had to take a plane to get there. It's going to start with just domestic Canadians. You know, anyone who is not dragging that virus from some other part of the world will be not welcome. So that's one terrific thing.
I was on a call with some producers about New Zealand and Australia, and same thing. Like New Zealand's fully reopened, you know, and their crew is at capacity, and you know, to the point where they've got surplus of offers. But again, they're waiting for the border between Australia and New Zealand to open up so they can pull in all the Australian talent as well.
Yeah.
So it starts, but there's already a lot of Americans that are up here. There's a lot of actually Americans from some shows that just stayed up here the whole way through.
Right. That was probably smart of them because they wouldn't get back in until next year. That's really complicated. My wife wants me to move to Canada so that I can get Canadian citizenship, so I can be in all these shows.
Yeah. Well, we want full movement between the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We want that little 4 countries.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, weirdly, I'm in Massachusetts, so I wouldn't be welcome. I'm around the corner now. I could drive there in 6 hours.
We like New England.
Yeah, well, New England is pretty Canadian, you know. That's really cool. I hope you do get going. I personally am in despair. I just don't know. I don't see it happening for me. I mean, because all my work happens all over the world. It doesn't happen in America. I can do stuff in America, but I'm usually from some other part of the world, unless I look like this. And so we shoot in Morocco, we shoot in South Africa, I shoot a lot in Canada. I was once called a kind of honorary Canadian actor because I've shot some of my finest stuff came out of Canadian productions. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see how I'm going to travel, but that's enough of my problems.
You never know.
You never know. It's true. Do you live alone?
Yeah, no, I'm on my own right now. I'm not married, no kids. So this is both been easy and also hard.
Yeah.
Trying to get through this time. Yeah.
Do you do any gaming or anything? I find that's a really good release.
A little bit. Not a hardcore gamer, but more just throw something on for a distraction for a half hour or so. But you just try not to dominate all your time by sitting in front of a screen. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of it because I'm on the earphone. I'm in touch with my friends in England because we play together. So we're just chatting about life and what's going on, and it's a good social tool, really.
Yeah.
The game itself I'm playing now has got boring so many weeks ago that I'm just going through the motions. I'm just hooking up just to play. Yeah. And I don't really watch TV. I watch YouTube channels like they're going out of business. Not Tastemaker or whatever they're called, opinion people. But I'm totally addicted to barbecue, 15-minute barbecue lessons on how to smoke the finest brisket and how to make the best plate of sushi. I kind of just follow one to the other. Well, what do you?
Food for me and cooking has been sort of that artistic, that release. It's always been a good balancing thing for me. So I love to cook. So one of the things that I helped organize that a crowd of us have done, about 10 of us, is every Saturday has been, okay, what's the food theme today? Whether it's, Italian or German or Chinese or Greek. And so everyone will prepare like a portion for everyone, and we just do a bit of a food swap. So you're not doing a party or a hangout, but just
what a great idea though.
And so we've had a lot of fun with that. That's
yeah. I'm cooking a brisket tomorrow. To my first ever smoked brisket. I'm putting it on the barbecue for, I think it's going to be about 8-9 hours. And we've got one person coming for lunch. Terrific. But that's fine. Yeah, we can't have more than one group, so because we can't accommodate. We don't have tables outside and it's got to be outside. So we have one other table, which my wife takes a tape measure and measures 6 feet, and they have to sit over there.
Yeah. And
we just hang out. So I'm cooking this massive brisket. They're gonna get meat sweats by tomorrow afternoon.
We've just upped it to 10 people is what we're allowed to be around. Still social distancing, but at least some of those restrictions are starting to happen. But I'm in support of don't rush it. Really, really, really don't rush this, because as soon as you start to have these flare-ups, it's like now you just shut everything down for another 6 weeks.
Yeah, and not just that, but which I completely agree with, by the way, but also if you want to be able to visit your mom, which my wife does, she's going to be super strict about everybody else. She's like, the minute I'm absolutely not going to threaten that avenue. I've got a constant. So she actually is. It's how she started. Part of the reason she stays sane through this is that she still has contact to her mom. Her mom still has contact to her. So there's no breakdown in that relationship or no anxiety in there. But that means I've got to be super anal about how I interact with people too, which is probably good for me. Because I'm normally not very. I just don't normally worry about it. Personally, I would be wearing a mask, but I would just forget and get too close to someone. I'd be like, So what's your favorite thing to cook? What's your favorite area? If you have
I'm a curry fan these days. I don't know if it's the part Englishman in me or not, or some time I spent in Southeast Asia, but curry is always it. It's
oh yeah.
So my default is a good palak paneer or just a nice dal. But I'll always.
Do you get paneer on sale there?
We can. It's a little more difficult to find. Usually I'll
online
substitute, go with halloumi instead, because halloumi is a lot easier to find. I find, so it's not the same, but it's still good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just found it in a local store here. So my wife just went, paneer, picking it up.
Oh, nice.
She loves the stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, I like I like pretty much any paneer based thing. I love the the spinach paneer and the peas paneer. Really, really, really delicious. Do you make your own curries powder, or do you buy a curry powder that you like?
No, I'll start from scratch. It's not as complex as you think. There's just always recipes everywhere, and this is the nice thing about the internet age is
that's true.
Really, yeah. So
and it makes the house smell so delicious when you start dry frying spices till they start popping in the pan.
Do it slow. There's a great place in Toronto called the Spice Trader that do, they just bring all the ingredients in, but what's great about it is they'll do like a curry spice blend making class. And so when you get access to the whole spice, the powdered spice, seeing how it all intermixes, and you'll find some things you can't find anywhere else. Like that's where I got introduced to Amshire, the dried mango powder.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Vietnamese Thai style. That's just fantastic.
Wow. That sounds delicious. That sounds yummy. And what's your impression of Gay Pride Month? What's your impression? How does it hit you in your life? How does it deflect off you? What's your interaction with it? I mean, it could be like have almost no interaction.
Well, for me, I'm a straight man. However, working in the business that I'm in, it's always been a good refuge and accepting crowd for people from the gay community, queer community. And so I've always just learned to embrace that. And also growing up how I did with my parents, I've never had an issue with anyone. I almost refer to it as kindergarten politics. When you grow up with, men and women equal, everyone from different, creeds, skin tone, everything, you just learn to love and accept everyone. And oddly enough, for a few years, I did volunteer at Pride and their site logistics side of things, doing what we do on film sets, it translates.
Of course, you'd be ideal for that. Yeah.
Fantastic to see and help with that. And also, part of my attitude with it is if you get people like me volunteering to help work it, it means people who really need to go and attend and enjoy it can.
Absolutely.
And Toronto has always been a very, very accepting place. The cities tend to be over the rural areas. But it's been good, 'cause it's not just about a party. It's about, understanding the history. It's about understanding, creating a mechanism. And so it's now having an environment where, grandparents later on in life are now coming out to their kids and they can all go together is great. I remember seeing, 82-year-old grandmother who came out to her first Pride after she had come out of the closet to her family.
That's so great. That's so terrific.
But again, I've been to a lot of places in the world where it's not acceptable at all, and it's troubling. But I love it. Like I've got, gay friends that have kids, whether they've adopted or had naturally, and it's great. We all support each other. I remember getting a call 4:00 in the morning from a friend of mine who, her wife was supposed to go into the hospital in 4 days, and we were gonna, do a bit of crossover work. Nope, going in tonight, it's all you. And you know what it must be like trying to jump into a crazy show. This is just what you do. Yeah. So that was good, and it's always been a great event. And a shame it probably won't happen this year.
No, it won't. I don't think it will happen. I think it's a bit too. It's not the right it's not the right message. It's when there's Black Lives Matter people on the streets, and that's kind of the right message it's synonymous with celebration and party. So even though it has a serious undertone, the thing that makes it really exciting for a lot of people is the fun that everybody seems to have, which is really amazing. But next year, miss one, that's cool. or find other ways of doing it, like the virtual geek theme park that Talya is organizing. That could be turned into something pretty great.
Yeah.
There'll be, and you know, will find ways of having a good time over this month, I hope, and still remembering the important stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think the country where I was born, Sudan, they would probably kill you if they found out you were gay. I've got a feeling it's in that area. It's actually one of the only 3 Sharia countries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of illegal on all kinds of weird levels. And obviously exists all over the place. My uncle was gay and he painted paintings and he made movies. But even his children and wife, his children would be cool with me saying it, but his wife would be really unhappy with me saying it because it would besmirch his memory. But my mum told me he was gay, and it was all the information I needed. So he must have come out to her. But he had to keep it a secret because it's a capital offense. Yeah. So I belong to one of the most strict countries in the world, and one of the most progressive in the UK. Well, actually, that's not true. One of the 100 most progressive in the UK. I think Canada is more progressive than the UK.
Yeah, not perfect, but you just got to keep making it better, and that's why better politicians. If you want to make change, you've got to get involved in the process. Like I've been involved with union politics here for about 6 years, and was supposed to hopefully get reelected or elected again, but we have to push everything because of COVID. But and that's why we do programs like going into underprivileged schools and areas to expose kids from the African Canadian community. Like these are careers you can get into, and we need your voices in as filmmakers. Like if the only people who are ever going to be directors are straight white men, you're not going to get the stories that 90% of the world wants to
That's
see.
Straight up. Absolutely.
And, it's funny, I sat in on a video call last night, a Q&A with a Canadian director, Helen Shaver, who I don't know if you all know. She was the star of Desert Hearts that came out in the 80s, which is a very big film for the queer community. But what was interesting was to have these older directors talk about trying to break into that traditional men's world. And I have to admit, I prefer working with female directors. They work harder, they're better prepared. It's always a much better experience. Some male directors I've worked with just don't take the job seriously enough, and it's not the best experience.
They probably got the job. They probably got to the place they are in their career quite easily, effortlessly, compared to some of the female directors or other genders. Sorry, I get confused when I have to start explaining other genders, and I've just had the lesson from Marlo. I just freeze like a rabbit in the headlights. Which word do I use? I think that's coming along. That's coming along. We're producing a show. My business partner and I, which I can't really talk about very much because we're doing it with other people. But about that. You can never really mention the names of these shows if they haven't been greenlit and aren't actually in production. But we just got a long list of 70 women directors. I'm not sure if they were all women, but the people who identified them for us decided they were women. Some of them might disagree. And that's happening a lot now. That particular wall isn't breaking, but it's softening. Yeah. And I hope it won't harden again. We do feel like we've gone back a couple of steps. I mean, I don't really. This is the kind of politics I don't mind talking about. I've always wanted to avoid the us versus them politics of today, the divisive, unpleasant rhetoric that we keep hearing from both sides. To be honest, they're both far-flung edges of the polar opposites, and so I just want this being a place of moderation. But politics is a moderate exercise. It's an exercise of trying to get things changed, trying to get things moved, trying to get that ball rolling, which is really important.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm very grateful that you've given me 15 minutes of your time, and I hope you get back into the saddle really quickly. I mean, really quickly, Jason. And I hope that there'll be opportunities open up for you, and you'll be prepping your next show within the next couple of months.
We hope it'll happen, but it's good signs worldwide because it is, you know, the film and TV industry is so quick to embrace new things and marshal through, and we just find and figure out ways. The one thing I'm actually talking to a lot of people about to really echo is you know, call them our cousins in the stage industries. They're really going to be hit hard because you're not going to have audiences. So we're looking for things on how and what we can do there. And so there's a lot of talk on that end, you know, but I think screen will come back quicker than stage will. So
yeah, you're right.
Musicians, you know, support artists, you know.
Yeah.
So
well, we don't need to tell people to watch TV. They do that anyway. But when the theater's open, go to the theater.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. I just wanted to clarify, the uncle you were talking about is one of your dad's brothers, right? One of your
yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
You have a very famous uncle on your mother's side. People were like,
That's
what?
true.
What?
That's true. Yeah, no, Malcolm, I don't think is about to come out. It's just probably not going to happen. But my other uncle, who I won't name, was my father's brother.
Yes. From context, we figured that out, but I just wanted to clarify. We're going to go to Ilmari. There we go.
Oh my God, I'm actually getting to talk to you, finally.
Fine.
Yeah, it's Ilmari, actually.
Ilmari,
The stress is in the first syllable.
Real pleasure to meet you, Ilmari.
Thank you.
I'm not switching to your screen. Have you got video off?
I should be having video on, but my connection is very laggy, so it might be
that's fine. That's fine. That's an excellent excuse, I have to tell you. Yeah, whereabouts in the world?
Can you guess from my accent?
I would hazard a guess at somewhere in Great Britain.
No, not actually. I got my accent from David Bowie interviews, so, and I have to also blame James Doohan and Callum Meaney for some parts of my accent, but I'm in Finland.
Oh my goodness! No, I would never have guessed. I'm gonna switch to multi-box view here.
Oh yeah.
There you are.
Here I am.
That's wonderful. Life is good. I feel that God is in His heaven again. So, Finland.
Yes.
How's life in Finland? I think you may not be our first person from Finland, but you're certainly the first person I've talked to from Finland.
It's very mosquito-y at the moment.
And super hot.
It's about 20 Celsius during the day, so not too much, but also no air conditioning out of like public buildings, so it's kind of sweaty inside mostly. So
yeah,
could be better, but the winters are worse because
you've been dealing with this COVID problem very well, if I understand the news correctly.
Yes, we are having very few cases, at least in my county, I guess I could call it, and the places are almost like normally open, but with like restricted opening times.
Yeah.
So like shopping malls and libraries close earlier than normally.
Right.
I have to ask you, have you started your sewing projects?
You know, I'm ashamed to say I still haven't. And the sewing machine is here. And I'm partly ashamed to say it because it's I could have done something about it, and I want to. Except I don't know quite what to sew with. I should go out and buy material, but I've just been too lazy. But I will, and everybody will see the amazing results of what I achieve. I will
make yourself a tiny Garrick.
Yeah, okay, I can do that.
My dear doctor, you have finally sewed me a present.
A little tiny Garrick that I can stick pins into and keep on my pins. What's your thing that you're most interested in studying? What's your jam? Is there something like that you're interested in, or particularly?
Tailoring. I'm
Oh my goodness! So that
yes, I said I'm going to become a tailor, but I guess it cut out. But I'm like majoring in stage costuming for theatre.
Oh my goodness, that's such an exciting thing to be doing. Such a fantastic thing to be doing. Like, creative and wonderful. You can look on this just at some of the people here tonight, and you'll see some pretty sparkly creations.
Yeah.
And do you want to design clothes as well, or just make them?
Kind of both. I mostly like make costumes for myself at the moment, and I also sew plushies as commissions and for myself.
That's fantastic. Now it all makes sense. David Bowie, that is starting to all fit together. So because I named my son second name Ziggy after David Bowie.
Oh my god, that's so cute.
Yeah, because I just thought he was one of the most amazing people I'd ever seen when I started to get to know him in the 90s. And so he had to have the name Ziggy.
Oh my god.
It couldn't be his real name, his first name. It's his real name, but it could, because Django was a pretty wonderful name too. So there was, he's got a real, Django is a real guitarist called Django Reinhardt, and played left hand. And Ziggy Stardust was a fictional guitarist, played left hand. So it kind of all works. It all works out.
Well, I mean, David Bowie was left-handed too, but I think he played right hand.
I've never noticed that, actually. That's really interesting. What's your favorite album or song, if you have a favorite?
I really like Diamond Dogs and Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. My favorite song might have to be the alternative version of Candidate, or then Big Brother, or Ashes to Ashes.
Oh yeah, really good songs. Really, okay.
Yeah, I have performed as David Bowie on stage in my local theatre, actually.
Oh really?
Yes, I made all my costumes by myself, of course. I have about 30 Bowie costumes. I have a whole big walk-in closet just full of David Bowie costumes everywhere.
You are going to have to show us some of these costumes. You're going to have to give us a little fashion show one day.
Yeah, I could. And I can also link my online gallery on the Discord server, I think. That link.
Please do. I'm sure people would love to see what you're making.
At the moment, I am making a Mewtwo costume from Pokemon, and also a Mewtwo doll. He's the head.
Oh, okay. That is so cool.
Oh, here you go.
Okay, you might have to switch on a light. Oh yeah, no, you don't have to switch on a light at all. That's really good. Wow, that is accomplished.
Thanks. Oh, god damn.
Wow. Yeah. So where do you do all your work?
At home, on the floor. At the moment I'm sitting surrounded by a pile of all kinds of fabrics because I can't really tidy up.
Well, I need some of your fabrics because I have none.
Oh damn! Get some used old socks with holes in them, like I did when I was a kid. I still do sometimes. I make really doll clothes from them. Yeah. That's
really good advice. Will you make sure that you put down how people can get to see the gallery, your YouTube gallery?
Yeah, and I have to ask, do you in America, like in Star Trek, did you dub all the episodes after? Because in Finland we don't, and the audio is the level you would expect from that.
Yes, we dubbed all the shows afterwards. And well, not every single one, but I would say 40 to 60%, because they wanted to get rid of all the noise of people walking around, all the doors opening and squeaking and things like that. And obviously the doors were actually open and shut. That sound effect, I can't really do it. That's not really. Sounds like anyway. We're just a man just pulling a rope.
Yeah.
So all those things rattled and made noises, and they had to be taken out. And because the whole set was basically cast iron, everywhere around the bridge. I mean, not the bridge. The bridge floor was iron, not the smartest move, although it looked great. But it was just iron, a grid like that. And all the walkways on the promenade and all that were all iron grid work. And so it went clink, clank, clink, clank, clink, clank everywhere we went. So we had to do everything again, which meant that I became quite good at it, because now I quite like doing my voice again after I'd finish a film or do a TV show, because I feel I can improve on the performance.
Okay, that
when
makes
I was a kid,
sense.
yeah, I mean, when I was a young actor, I had a very high voice, and at least I thought so. And my mum told me I did. So I had written on my trailer, because I would always go back to my trailer, which is just a little trailer, not bigger than that. And I would write on the inside of my trailer door, so I'd look at it as I leave every time I went to set, the word voice. So I would remind myself to try and modulate my voice, make it a little bit darker. Set didn't work, but that's how that went. But yeah, we had to dub everything.
I remembered another question. There's this video of you singing.
That wasn't me. Oh.
What was it? Fly Me to the Moon. Somebody played ukulele on the background, and you just sang with your hands in your pockets. It was really cute.
Oh, thank you. I don't profess to be a great singer. Although I have to say, like you, if I do karaoke, which I do with my wife probably once a month, because we just do it into the small hours of the mornings just to have fun, I will try and do David Bowie songs, because that suits my register, except he gets much higher than me.
Oh.
But yeah, I do remember
nice.
Convention in Birmingham, I think, that these people went around and asked everybody to sing Fly Me to the Moon. But I couldn't really remember the words. Still, it was fun to do. Thank you for noticing.
What's your favorite Bowie song to sing on karaoke?
I love Ashes to Ashes. Did you ever figure out what Major Tom was?
I always thought he was like a nod to that one. Was it astronaut or somebody in real life?
How old are
Somebody
you?
in
You mind me
the
asking
American history. I'm in my early 20s.
Oh, great! I can say then. I think Major Tom is drugs. So next, it's like
that might be.
That's what I think. Yeah, and also like Ziggy Stardust, and there's a load of I have a kind of favorite for every day of the week almost.
Okay, that's really fair.
It's just been such surreal conversation, because your lovely face keeps moving every now and then, and just freezes and then freezes and then freezes and freezes. So I've been talking to a kind of flip book animation the whole time, which has been really interesting. But I think I might have time to squeeze one more person in today's chat. So do you mind if I move along and talk to somebody else?
No, I don't mind. Have a nice one.
Here we go. Okay, Bianca, we're going to go to you. I don't know if you remember, Bianca is the co-creator of the comic.
Yeah, the comic verse. Yes.
Hi.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to meet you.
To meet you. Thank you. Lovely to meet you. We've had such a surreal set of...
Yeah.
I love that necklace. What is
that? Thank you.
Is that like a smashed? I can't tell what that is. It's like, what is it?
It's a little bit abstract.
Is it glass?
It's made out of polymer clay, and it has a glass eye in it. And I got it at a place called FairyCon, where people dress up like fairies. And I bought it from one, so I love it. I'm a huge dragon fan. I love all Eastern dragons, and so when I saw it, I had to get it.
That's awesome. Whereabouts are you?
I'm like 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. We have quite a lot of people around you. It's quite a busy social club area there.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, it lives nearby me. That kind of lives nearby. That person's pretty close. And how are you? How is your body and soul?
I'm pretty good. I'm a mental health therapist for my profession, my main profession. And so I've been talking to people all day, every day, and kind of getting their experience about, you know, what the virus is like for them, the quarantine, and the protests. And so I think if I didn't have that, I would be doing a lot worse because I'm a social person. And so, and I can still work, so that's really good.
So does that make, how does that, I mean, obviously you've got a very positive outlook on that, because often people could easily imagine that you'd find it really hard because you're spending lots of time knitting people together back during the day, and that takes a toll.
Yeah, I was at some of my jobs. I've worked in what's called residential treatment facilities where children, mostly teenagers, either they have nowhere else to live or they have severe behavioral and emotional problems. And at that time, I was definitely working with those kind of systems, like your wife. And that's definitely emotionally difficult.
So that must put you in touch with a big variety of different people, helping, knitting people. I'm calling it knitting people back together.
I like that term. Yeah, I see people of all ages. Right now, I think my youngest person I'm seeing is like 10, but I've seen as low as like 4 or 5. And some of the therapists at my place are seeing little kids, and that's really tough because when you're doing telehealth, when you're doing they can't really sit still, and
that's really,
and
also it's sort of antithetical to the process, isn't it? I mean, I can be in the same room with you, but I can't. I don't trust myself being close to you. It's a breakdown of kind of trust before we even get there, for good reason, but it's all about trust, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, some people find it to be less anxiety producing to not be in the room with me. And some people find it to be more anxiety producing, and some people won't even do it. Like some of my clients said, I can't do that. I'm not going to see you during this time. You know, so everybody has a variety of responses to doing it. But most of the people I see stayed with me, and I was grateful for that. And I get to check in with them, and it also gives me a broad perspective too when you see people of all ages, because kids are generally just bored, confused, missing their friends, up to adults who are, dealing with more serious issues and, can understand things on a different level.
I guess you'd have to say that most of the people, a large number of people in this social club are probably happier not being in the same room.
Yeah.
A lot of people have admitted that. So actually, I quite like being kind of alone in my house. I'm pretty relaxed about that. Or just with my closest people. So I'd say yes. A lot of us are not broke, but we're chipped.
Definitely. Yeah.
And what do you live alone, or do you live with do you have a family with you?
Yeah, I'm married to my husband Taylor. Yes.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I've just gotten married to my husband. No, yeah, we've been married for 10 years.
Oh, quite a long time.
Coming up, and this is us with Sirach and Avery.
Avery.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we met them in New Jersey, and I think it was 2013 or 2012. And I was like, as you can see, I'm ecstatic because I'm a huge Deep Space Nine fan. So.
Oh, it's lovely to see Avery again. I haven't seen Avery for such a long time, and the conventions I've been to, people tell me that they haven't seen him either. Apparently, he's just vanished.
Oh, wow. I met him twice, so I feel lucky.
You are so lucky. I have met so many people who have this big photograph with all the characters on it, and they're getting them all signed. And there were 2 missing, and they would come up to and go, I finally got you. You were the one guy I couldn't get.
Oh,
and you know who I haven't got? Avery Brooks. And I'm like, I don't know where he is. There was someone here who was working at Rutgers, but he said that he didn't know where he is. So I'm not sure how to track him down. I think he doesn't really want to do much about
Yeah.
to do with Star Trek anymore.
Yeah, I understand that.
Absolutely. Do you cook, or does your husband cook?
Well, we both, I cook more than my husband, but we do simple things. I'm mostly a vegetarian, and so I'll make something for myself and he'll add meat to it. And so that's kind of how we do things, and we do our own thing during the day.
Do you do Indian food?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That works really well for that, because Indian food.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you just add meat to it, and it's still perfect.
Yeah,
That's really
and delicious.
Cool. Yeah, and delicious. Did you hear me talking to the guy who makes his own?
Yes, I did.
Absolutely, that's a good COVID project. If you have any time.
Actually, my husband made me a vegetarian Indian dish towards the start of the quarantine, and I was really impressed. It was really good.
Wow, that's pretty great. How have you? Is Gay Rights Month? It's got a better name than that. I just forgot it. How has that impacted you? Does it impact you? Does it something you notice, discuss?
Well, I'm bisexual myself, and I came out in the 90s in high school, and I was one of the only people I knew that came out.
That was incredibly early.
Yeah, and so I knew 2 other people came out, and it amazes me working with young people today, just how and how much they want to express their identities to each other and to the world, and I work with people who are transgender and gender fluid and all kinds of things, and gay, and I get to hear their experiences as a therapist, and it enriches my knowledge of what's going on currently, and I feel like I'm plugged into that world in that way.
You definitely are, more than most of us. Absolutely, because you meet such a wide variety of people during the course of work. And do you find that people have who are the identity is one of the reasons people feel misaligned, for want of a better way of putting it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still, as much as we're talking about it and the world is more accepting and people have more knowledge about it, it's still extremely stressful for people to come out and for people to figure out who they are. I had a transgender client come out to me, and that was a profound experience for me, as well. And
what a privilege.
Yeah, absolute privilege. Yeah. And so it's very stressful, and it is one of the topics that we discuss in therapy.
Yeah. It's amazing, because we do say it's more accepted, but frankly, that's not acceptance. It's just a little bit more. It's a bit like the distraction of white lives matter. People keep going, well, white lives matter. Why aren't they saying white lives matter or blue lives matter?
Right.
And I don't think there's any denial of the fact that blue or white lives, although there's no blue people, blue or white lives matter. It's just that goes without saying in this society. Absolutely. It doesn't need to be said. Because we already know. So that's a really interesting thing, and that must be really stressful, especially because you've got young teens and people who are already fizzing hormonally. They're already ready to rock. And how is it a very slow? Do you get to see them over a long period of time, or is it very quick? How do you get this? How do the liaisons occur?
It's really all over the map. There's some people who I only see for 6 sessions, some people I see for years. And so it really depends on what the person needs. And as long as therapy is still helping them and supporting them and they still want to come, then I let them come. And there's some people who I have said, I think you'll do okay if we stop. Or some people who just stopped on their own. But it's really all depends.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been twice, mainly because I never felt adrift, and in a way that my family or close friends couldn't sort of shake me out of. But once was with a girlfriend who insisted that within weeks, insisted we go together. But I think that was part of a trend in the teens.
Yeah.
But, you know, people were making like $400 an hour just telling couples that, yeah, well, you need to go to therapy right away. And it's like, okay, well, let's go. I went.
Yeah.
Really
Well, that was
bad.
nice of you to go.
A terrible idea. And the other time was many, many years ago, because obviously I got divorced. Everybody knows that. So it was just important to do, to explore another way of fixing what was not being fixed. And that was kind of very instructive and interesting for me. Yeah, that was really, really good. Although I felt, this is turning into a therapy session now, but I felt I could manipulate it. And I'm not sure if that was the right feeling. So I had to sort of back off and go, it's not really cool. I was so tempted to manipulate it.
Yeah.
Because it's quite hard. It's you're battling two minds, and you have to just trust the other person isn't manipulating it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like if you stay with a therapist long enough, they might realize what you're doing, you know, at the same time. You know, but people are, you know, their defenses are up, especially in those situations where you're going as a couple, because you don't want to, or as a family, because you don't want to, you know, look your worst, and you don't know the person very well that you're sitting in front of. And so again, that's like, you know, you have to build trust in order to reveal your true self sometimes.
That's really fascinating. And are you planning on doing something different? Has COVID taught you something, different techniques, or something else about yourself that you think you might bring to the party?
Well, me and my fellow therapists were just talking about Black Lives Matter and about wanting to inform ourselves as therapists about like how we can be the best allies, the best therapists to people of color. And I think that's a really important thing for therapists to do right now, or anybody to do right now. You know, so I that's something that, you know, during this time, it's really important to inform yourself, to get education, so you don't hurt anybody, because do no harm is, as you know, as a doctor, right? Do no harm.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's what the point, I mean, one of the things I'm really enjoying about the social club right now, and I know it changes a little bit every week, because we come up with different pieces of yarn to pull on, is that I'm trying to inform myself, and hopefully other people might get informed too. And that's what's been so marvelous about people explaining, you know, what this Gay Pride Month is all about. And maybe a Black Lives Matter, although that's a bit weirder for me, because I'm sort of, I kind of intersect with that movement anyway.
Definitely.
So that feels a little self-serving. So I'm not probably going to do that. But I did talk about identity, which was kind of interesting. And that was fascinating to me in terms of what we can give each other. Because I think that's really how this all works out. Once we know that the person is of value to us.
Definitely. I was watching you talk about that. I was there while you talked about your background and Avery Brooks, you know, giving you books and.
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. I remember him. He's like, Siddig, hey, how you doing? Good. What's up, man? Hey, you cool?
That's definitely him.
Yeah, he very much like that. You did? You know what I mean? Yeah. He was very emphatic. Yeah. I think about that. Yeah. But I'm really glad you get to meet him before he went off the radar, and I hope he comes back on. It's been really lovely talking to you. I wish I could talk to you. Some people I could talk to for hours, and I just have to give it up.
Well, I'm thrilled to have talked to you, and you know, maybe I'll talk to you again in the future.
Inshallah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Have a lovely rest of Friday. Have a lovely weekend, wherever you are, with the stress on love. And we'll catch up. All right, guys?
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, friends.